Hey Fortnite fans, today we're taking a look at the limited edition Chaos Double Agent from Jazwares. I want to begin by saying that this figure is not available everywhere just yet, and I only have this figure thanks to my friend 118 Archive, who was able to secure a couple figures from what I believe is the country of France. Well, that's not into question, I just mean I believe he picked these up from France and got them shipped over to us, and I know he got a couple and he sent me one as well so we could take a look at this figure. I have not seen this figure for sale anywhere else in the world, and I don't even remember if I've seen this on overseas websites or not. This is probably the first time I've actually seen this figure, and it's pretty cool, and there's something I don't like about it. Let's jump right in and take a look at this figure. So I don't know if you can tell through my camera lens or not, but I can see real plainly here. Let me grab my handy-dandy pointer knife. I gotta get a real legit pointer here. But the upper legs and the rest of the legs seem to be a slightly different color, and I don't know if that's just storage or light or what, but I'm noticing that the upper legs, the upper thighs are pretty white, while between the thighs and the knees are a little bit darker. And you know, you might think that's shadows and stuff, but I was really looking at this figure, just holding it up, and I was like, yeah, there's a definite color difference there. So I don't know if that's something that will be on every figure, and it could just be how they make it and natural progression over time. I mean, this figure is not that old. Anyway, Chaos Double Agent, we have a Chaos Agent at some point coming, and as far as I know, he's not been released except for I think the Philippines. I think he was found recently in the Philippines. But anyway, he comes with the Mayhem Scythe pickaxe, which I think this is pretty cool. I love the gold colors and the black handles. I think that color combination works really well. Because this is a limited edition, or I don't know if it's because this figure comes with a second head because it's a limited edition. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing I was going to say. He has the goopy style head, and this is pretty cool that he's got this. And it's not real hard to pop off the figure, and we're coming up to one of the problems that I have with this figure pretty shortly. But anyway, if you know who Chaos Agent is in-game, you know that the pipes run around, or if you have the Hasbro figures, the pipes run around from the front and plug into the back. Well, these pipes can unplug, and then you can easily pop that head off, and then he becomes that headless Chaos Double Agent. You can pop the goopy on, and I've had a little bit trouble with this. I'm not always sure if it's actually on all the way or if I've got to push it just a little bit more. But we're going to say that it's on, and it might actually fall off at some point. But for some reason, I just think this version looks a whole lot better than the default one. I don't know, it's just me. I like the look of this one. Maybe it's because I'm not a huge fan of this look, and you know, you can be. It looks kind of weirdly sci-fi alienish, so if it's your thing, cool, that's your thing. I just really like this goopy one. I think that's pretty cool. Now, the problem that I have with this action figure is the coat, and this is partially on me for not paying attention and not remembering, but I don't know, I think Jazwares probably could have come up or figured out a better way of working this coat. Now, these are a soft rubber coat, and so the problem is they are connected. Let's see if we can get this much closer here so you can see. There we go. They come with like a small single point of connection. So pretty much right here where this hole is that you can see, that's the point of connection for this coat. And it's pretty tight. It is pretty tight. And so when I went to check this head out, I actually put my thumb like right there and popped it off. Hey, I heard a snap. That means it was actually on. And then when I released my hand, I discovered, oh look, this thing had broken. And there's a few other figures that have this kind of a point of connection, and I'm usually pretty careful with it. But if you either don't know, or you just want to play with your figures or do stuff and you don't think about it and don't realize, it's going to rip and break, and you know, then you've got a small problem, because I mean, his tie is designed in such a way that you don't see it. So when you open up this jacket, look at that, he's got like a cut off tie at that torso spot. So it looks weird if the coat's kind of open. That's a little bit disappointing that there's only one tiny point of connection there. So anyway, just thought you might want to be warned and made aware of that. It's disappointing, but otherwise the figure looks cool. Otherwise the figure looks great. Just sometimes those small little things, just the small things, can be a large enough disappointment. Anyway, so moving on, I do want to say one cool thing. Now, for anyone who's familiar with this character in-game or the game, this might not be something you're very fond of, but I actually really like something. So I'm going to go as far as to say is they kind of modified this character from the game in action figure form. And they gave him muscles. I mean, look at this. He's got some round shoulders. He's got some roundness there at the elbows. They gave this guy, this is a buff Chaos Double Agent. And he is absolutely the opposite of buff in game. He's like, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but he's like a very scrawny, small, thin character in game. That's how he was made. That's his thing. And he's not that way. He's like really awesome buff, and this dude's strong. Like, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. The guy in the game I might, but this one, I don't think I'd mess with this guy. So anyway, I just think I like that he's a little bit buffer, he's a little bit stronger looking. I just think that's kind of cool. I think that gives a good figure presence in that way. But like I said, some of you might not appreciate that only because you're wanting more realistic, but a realistic look from the in-game version. So you'd probably want him a little bit skinnier, more like probably Human Bill. Human Bill was a pretty skinny figure, and that probably would have worked out really well for a Chaos Agent or a Chaos Double Agent base there. Anyway, so, but this figure has all the same standard articulation, except for those. He's got some serious arthritis there in those shoulders. But hinge and rotation elbow, hinge rotation at the wrist. And yeah, you can move him around, and I can really move him around now that his coat is broken. His waist is a little bit more difficult. If you want him to do the splits, up he goes. If you want him to sit, not bad. Of course, this coat's going to get in the way. If it's still sealed and you try to raise his legs up, they'll probably only go about that far. But once it's cracked and broken right there, then it's going to split like that. Again, that's never going to get old. It's going to always disappoint me. Thighs are a little tight, but they do rotate. In fact, these are so tight, I was rotating one earlier, and like the leg just popped up. Well, there we go. Perfect timing. The leg popped off while I was rotating because the legs seem to be pretty loose. If you can hear that. And yeah, this is a pretty loose figure up there, and I don't know if that's because it's an early figure. I don't think it's an early figure. I mean, this was purchased from a store. And so anyway, double pin at the knee so he can bring his knee up that high. And finally, a hinge, a rotation, and I think a pivot. Nope, they designed this guy. So he's got like a pivot here, and he's got a hinge. See how far back this dude can go. He can go back about that far, and he can go forward about that far. Yeah. So he's got a pretty decent range of motion. You could get him in some fun little action poses, especially once you crack open that vest. If you decide to do that on purpose, he's got a lot more range. But you can see how that, I should say vest, it's a jacket. You can see how different poses separate this jacket more and more. And so when it's all hooked together, you do have to be a little bit more careful unless you don't care. I do like the golds. I think the golds on this figure look very nice, and I like the mixture of the gold and the white. I don't like the character or the skin in game very much, but I do like the colors of it. So anyway, let's give him his Mayhem Scythe. And oh, by the way, just for anyone who's interested or wants to know, this figure, Chaos Double Agent, only has 2 fingers and a thumb based off of how the design in-game is. So if you're wanting to use these hands for like a custom, you're going to be right there. See? 2 fingers and a thumb. So he's not got a normal humanoid 4 fingers and a thumb hand. But yeah, this dude is really cool. I like him, and I really hope he gets released somewhere So all of you who want this figure can get it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.